Woo!
Hey, gentlemen, just letting you know, the audio for that is super, super low. We can barely hear it.
Fun.
Wow. In a world with all Klingons.
I have no idea how to fix that.
Wow.
Okay.
I've worn you, Torg.
Who needs audio when we have these two?
I know, right?
Kabla.
Ooh, that hurt. Ooh. Uh-oh. Yeah. Oh, divided. In a world divided by anger.
El Behoof Pie, everybody. I think I said that wrong. Welcome to the Day of Honor, and welcome to Star Trek Online's panel. My name's Mike Fatum, and I am the community manager for Star Trek Online, also known as Ambassador Kel sometimes. And I am joined today by a fabulous panel of both Star Trek Online developers and esteemed Klingon actors. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll introduce the developers first. Please welcome lead ship and UI artist Thomas Maroney.
Hey everyone, it's great to be back for my second panel today on the Day of Honor. Kapla.
Kapla. And our lead environment artist, Scot Boyd.
Hey everybody.
And did Al get dropped out of the call? I think
I'm right here.
No, he's right
you're
there.
Okay, I couldn't see you for some reason.
I think we're still working on the video.
Exactly.
Okay. Lead designer Al Rivera, everybody.
Kapla.
And of course, the stars of the show today. We are joined by the former chancellor of the Klingon Empire. Actually, they're both former chancellors now that I think about it. But current foil in Gempok's side, ladies and gentlemen, General Martok himself, J.G. Hertzler.
Boo! More like this type of story.
And the other former chancellor, although in our game he plays his own grandfather, the man behind both the eyes of Gowron and the eyes of Aakar, ladies and gentlemen, Robert O'Reilly.
And here I am, back here in my old grandfather here.
Welcome, guys. Thank you so much for joining us for this panel today. It's going to be a lot of fun, I hope.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
For those of you in the audience, we are going to be doing questions, but we're not going to be doing them until the end. Just post questions in the chat during the panel, and our handy-dandy senior environment artist, Nick DeGood, is hanging out in chat, and we'll pick the 5 best questions for us to answer at the end.
I didn't know Nick was here. Hi, Nick. Thank you for moderating over there.
Yes, we appreciate you very much for volunteering to help out with that.
Nick?
He's not on the call, JG. He's in chat. Just picking out questions.
He's in the booth.
He's producing.
Secret weapon.
He's producing.
Looking good.
Yeah.
Oh, I have a friend who's Nick the Quick. He was the lead guitar of my band. Yeah.
That's awesome. All right.
All right, we have got we have two Gowrons there on the Zoom feed there. I can't tell which is which. It's like looking into a mirror over there.
It is, yeah. It's got
awesome.
So I wanted to show you guys.
I give up, Grandpa.
Look at that batleth. Who designed that bat?
That's the sword of
Kalis.
That's the sword of
Kalis.
That's the sword of emperors.
Yeah, that's your personal weapon, my friend.
Yeah, I don't see the blade, the end of the blade.
It's just cut off on some.
That's because I masked it together. You're not
take off your sunglasses, you'll see better. Yeah.
The last time you were with us when we were doing the Deep Space Nine expansion, you got the sword of Kalis in there in that story.
Yeah.
So you wrote it to victory, so you still have it.
You've been wielding
Martok
it
still
for a
has the
while
sword of
without
Kalis.
going crazy, which is unusual.
There's more points on the sword of Kalis.
We photoshopped 2 pictures of you guys together. So there's a line in the middle. You see how it's stabbing into that other Klingon's chest?
Don't ever.
Yes, I see it. Yeah.
Mike, go back and rePhotoshop it.
I blew it. Man.
All right, give me an hour or so. I'll make.
I am a handsome fellow. I say that.
All right. So you guys, for JG, it was your second time coming back to Star Trek.
I think it's his third time.
Third time. You're right. I'm sorry. For Robert,
times.
it was your first. What's in the past it was recording in a booth at Cryptic Studios for you, JG. But what is it like for you guys summoning up like a full Klingon character with all of that entails, all the screaming and spitting and things like that, from the comfort of your own home?
You go since you're the oldest among us, Bob. You go ahead.
Yes, I am older and wiser. Yes. Yes. And I don't talk as much, but I am wise. Oh, that's not true. I do talk as much. Anyway, it was. I actually did not do it at home. I did it in the studio because I'm so technically inept as a human being and as a Klingon. I couldn't possibly do anything at home except read books, and that's about it. Even then I have troubles. But I went into a studio, and it was wonderful because the studio was empty. And I was able to find the studio, which is quite amazing, being of my elderly age. And once found, I did find it, and was able to enter it because somebody pushed a button, and I got in. Once I got in, it became difficult to find where I was supposed to go. But a voice led me there. I opened the door, and I was in the right place. I don't know how that happened, but it did happen.
It's the technology that foils, Bob. The technology like stairways. And
Yes,
they had more than one door, and so
I bumped into more stairways in my time. It's quite amazing stairways. I've always thought that's why I like elevators better, because you open them up and then you close them and then you open them up again, and that's it.
And you've gone nowhere because you haven't
exactly,
pressed the button.
or you've gone somewhere in one case or another.
Bob, in this image, that's a really, really sharp-looking outfit you have on. That's like brown leather and. Or I'm sorry.
Oh, you mean in the picture? I thought you meant my T-shirt.
No, I will never compliment you on your T-shirts.
I love my outfit. It's like
that makes one.
It's a house,
that's an incredible outfit.
Yeah, I'm trying to make a Klingon outfit for myself in the real world right now, and my God, all of those straps that you guys have to wear.
Yeah, our amazing character team beginning to design that.
Yeah,
you do not wear them when it's 100 degrees. And we both did, and it's That's all I have to say.
The first thing I ever did was Klingon. It was a CD-ROM that Jonathan Frakes directed. Bob was the star. But the bartender, I can't remember that actor's name, the guy who played actually passed out, fainted from the heat.
Oh, God.
We were shooting in the summertime because they were doing the CD-ROM in the summer. What was his name, Bob? Do you remember?
Boy, I should, because he was a brilliant actor. You know, he did a play with Al Pacino, and he played Al Pacino's brother in the play, and he actually stole a scene from Pacino, and it was like, and he was
Pablo Hummel. Was it?
Yeah, Pablo Hummel. Yeah.
Nice.
And he was a Ron.
It was Ron. You're right about that. I can't remember.
Yeah. And I cannot think. I will by the end of the show.
Someone will IMDb it in chat and tell us by the end of the show.
I'm trying right now. I'm doing it right now.
So it's following up on kind of side things like Star Trek CD. One of my absolute favorite things that we got to do in this particular expansion, Robert, we got you to say "experience beige" on camera, which is one of the most fan favorite lines in Star Trek history. Can you talk a little bit about the history of that and where it came from?
Well, it was Experience Beige came from, you can Google it too, it's interesting, but I did that to, somebody said, well, you're going to have to say it, so I had to figure out how to say it, so I Googled it. And there were like 52 ways to say it, the line. And because I once did a show, a game. It was probably 30 years ago. It was the very first game that I guess ever came out after or during Next Gen.
Yeah.
And I was the only one on the Enterprise, and I had taken it over. And you play the game against me, and every time you mess up, you have to experience beige. and so whatever beige is, you experience it. And so I constantly did that. And then who is the mathematician that walked in during my scene and asked for
Stephen Hawking?
Yeah, Stephen Hawking. And I went, "Who are you?" And he said, "I'm Stephen Hawking," in a speaker kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And I said, "Should I know you?" And he said, "Yes, you should."
Oh, man, I never heard that before.
Yeah, I never heard that story before. That's amazing.
That's amazing.
There were no photographers on the set and on either set, and so the wardrobe took out a Polaroid and took two Polaroids. I got one, he got the other, because his favorite character, Stephen Hawking's favorite character, were Klingons. You know?
Oh, wow.
A man of excellent taste.
Absolutely. And pretty good at math, but I call that picture the photograph of the mathematical genius of the universe and the mathematical idiot of the universe. You decide which.
Nice. So JG, stepping back into the shoes of Martok in a recording studio. The last two times you did it, yeah, you came down to Cryptic and joined us in our booth. This time you did it. I think you actually did do it from home. What was that experience like? How was it different from the previous recording ones?
No, I was in the studio too here.
Okay. Well, then I know nothing.
There's a brilliant. There's only like one studio here. He records every musician within 100 miles. He's an incredible. It's a great recording studio.
What were you doing there then?
Just making it even greater, Bob.
You can plug them if you want. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's called the Rep Studio, and Nate Richardson is the producer, but he plays every instrument imaginable. He has things on the walls, but the thing that caught my attention was the B3 organ. I walked in and there's this old B3 Hammond organ, and I said, does that work? He said, "Oh yeah." If you know B3s, I mean, all the great rock and roll organists used them. Anyway.
Did he play a bazooka?
No, but he played a balalaika.
Is that like a bazooka?
It is kind of a balalaika like a bazooka. Yeah. Do you speak bazooka? I
speak bazooka.
You say
bazooka. I'll never stop saying bazooka. The most beautiful sound I've ever heard.
You're right, Scott. I should throw the PowerPoint out.
I'm trying to keep the volume low here.
Repeat the question.
I think it was what was the difference in recording? But if you were in a studio, I don't know how much difference it was. What was the difference recording this time with the previous two?
Well, I was up at Cryptic the first two, and that I spent so many years in San Jose and Saratoga and San Francisco. In 1981, I moved from the East Coast to the West Coast, and didn't come back until 2006, I think, 2007. So I spent half of those years in the Bay Area. And, Al will tell you this, when I was stunned at what Los Gatos looks like. By the way, have you seen?
Yes, I have.
Was it the TV show? Was it the TV show called the Great Vast? There's a new sci-fi show on where it takes place.
The Expanse?
No, it wasn't Expanse. But it takes place in Cayuga, New Mexico. Yeah, well, this is Cayuga Lake, where I live here, and it's not in New Mexico. The town.
Hey, please don't move it there.
No, the town was listed as Los Gatos, and they were in. Oh no, it was that military. It was Jake Tapper's book turned into a film that's just out called Outpost.
Okay.
You know who Jake Tapper is? He's on CNN. He's a news
Yeah.
talented man. Anyway, he wrote a book and they made it into a film with Orlando Bloom's in it. But
where are we going with this, JJ?
Oh, did he freeze?
No.
Oh no. No,
he's got a thing.
Fans, I'm going back now. It's like Mark Twain says, no, it wasn't the Beigers from
it was on fire. I remember it was on fire.
It was the Pennsylvania Beigers. That's what it was.
All right. I'm just gonna move on to the next slide. All right, Al. Al, I got a question for you.
Is it even worth it?
I don't know. Okay, so the Klingon Civil War. This has been your baby. I've heard you talking about it for probably 3 years now. Where did the original idea come from, and what was your thought process behind putting this storyline together?
This is like this. You're putting me up around after the headliner, man. I don't know if I can even be.
Listen, but you play that 20-minute guitar solo where you go
home. We actually got there because Discovery, when Discovery came out, they're focused on largely on a Klingon story and a Klingon war, and we wanted to tell a story that's tied into the Discovery story. And of course, our game takes place hundreds of years afterwards, after Discovery. So we got in touch with CBS, and they gave us this character to see on the screen. Her name is Jaula. I think both of you should be familiar with you've talked about her in the scripts, and she's the daughter of Takuvma, who is the instigator of the war on Discovery, and she was created in a comic by IDW Comics, and so when we wanted to,
Al?
What's that?
When was it created by IDW?
IDW created it just before or just after when Discovery Season 1 launched. So that would be almost 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So they created this character. And so CBS said, just, because we wanted to do a story with Klingons that would eventually take us into the future, into our timeline. And they gave us this character. And I worked with the writers over there at IDW Comics, and we fleshed out her role. And so she comes forward in time, and we've been wanting to, and since she's come from a time when there was a lot of war between the Klingons and the Federation, when she moves forward in time, she sees this kind of what she thinks of as this corrupt empire, on the Klingon Empire, and she basically starts, she sees the current Chancellor Jim Pock as corrupt. He supposedly had killed Martok, but didn't. He just he revived him and put him in prison and had him tortured. And so that's not honorable. That's not how you become chancellor. Is you have to kill the previous chancellor. And so she sees him as corrupt, and basically that instigates this huge civil war. So we plan our stories years ahead of time, just because it takes years to develop these things. And
well motivated. Yes, good.
But you may remember this. Al went on a podcast like 2 years ago and said, "Oh, we're doing a story that's going to change the face of the game," which led to rampant speculation until now that I finally have been able to this is what he was talking about.
This is kind of what it's coming. It's still coming.
Yeah, I know.
So we wanted to. We hadn't done a good Klingon story, or maybe in a long time, if maybe arguably ever. I mean, I guess the Kuvama story was kind of interesting, but we hadn't really dedicated Star Trek Online to a good Klingon story. So we wanted to get all the best Klingons we could for this storyline, and there are more to come. and which is at and Bob.
Well, that actually leads me to my next question.
Yeah.
Al, because a JG makes perfect sense to be a part of this. Martok's a huge part of the Klingon Civil War. You knew you had to get Robert in there because if we're doing all the best Klingons, we have to include Bob. When did you guys hit on the idea of having him take over the role of Aakar and making Aakar Gowron's grandfather?
Well, I had met. I had already worked with John quite a few times, a couple times already, and so John had actually introduced me to Robert at STLV, and I had been wanting to find a place for him, but of course they killed him in Deep Space Nine. So I mean, not that it ever stopped anyone on Star Trek.
Bro.
Spoilers, I know. You only had 20 years or 15 to watch it. But we didn't want to just like resurrect him. It was just. When we were doing the Ju'ula story at that same time, we were also bringing in Rekha Sharma and Jason Isaacs at the same time, and we just honestly just didn't have the time to sculpt another character. This takes a really long time to make another character, so we just didn't have the time to bring him in that early. Plus. When we introduced Aakar originally, he didn't really have a large role. He was just at first starts off as this small character and later becomes more important. And so as we were moving into this Klingon Civil War and this Year of the Klingon, this was a good time to now bring Robert in, and we basically retconned Aakar, the character, and resculpted him and revoiced, so that way Bob is now Aakar, who is this really sinister dude.
In fact, do you want to see Aakar being a treacherous little snake?
We have a treacherous. Can we get the volume up?
Yes, please.
The volume's not good.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I don't know what else I can do about
that sucks. Yeah, because the voice acting on here is fantastic. He did such a good job with this.
Yeah.
The sepia tone kind of look is on purpose because this is actually a flashback.
It's a flashback, right? And
this is the moment we learn Aakar is the bad guy.
Yeah.
And I'm going to add this to you. Like, I purposely lit him in red and Ju'ula in blue because the idea of the separation between the two, and because that's in the imagery you see a lot of blue and red, and so I put, again, he's on the dark side, kind of that rage and fire, and she's kind of, again, becoming someone other than what Aakar is. So it was a very artistic choice, and that's a good shot right there.
That's a really cool.
I love it.
Really cool.
Your voice delivery on that, Bob, was really, really good. So that
I love that line too.
Okay,
The pay it here or in Grethor. That's so great.
And, yeah. Oh gosh.
So this is just also want to give a shout out to our writer, Paul Reed, who brings my stories to life and creates this wonderful dialogue for everyone to read here. So I mean, a lot of people are involved, but some great writing there from Paul.
So Scott, you talked a little bit about
your drawings. I mean, the graphics are just so beautiful. They're incredible.
That's a lot of
charts. Wow.
It's our character artists, it's our animators. It's a lot of people putting a lot of time in there to make it look as good as it is. The funny thing about that scene is when we were writing, we had this big list of scenes. That was the one that we knew was going to be a lot of work. And we were like, oh my gosh, we're dreading this one. So we're like, this one may get cut. If we needed to cut a scene, that was going to be the one that was going to get cut if we didn't have time to do it. And we were looking at the schedule, and I'm like, we're not going to have enough time to do it. We got to cut it, Al. And Al's like, what do you mean? No, it's too late. We have to do it. And I'm like, okay, crap. And then so we did it. We did it quicker than we wanted to, but Weston, he threw that together, and the animations that he did for Ju'ula and for Aakar, and again, when it was great. And then when I hear the audio come in and your presentation, Robert, I loved it when you what did you call him? You called him, and when you stabbed your cousin, and you called him Bakhtar or something like that.
Patak.
Just your presentation, it was so good. And then the voice, you have such a unique and distinct voice, and it was done so well. And I was like, oh my gosh. So that is my favorite scene. And it was, again, one that we were going to do last minute. but because of your performance and just how everything turned out, it's one of my favorite scenes in the entire release.
So Scott, how did
You know, I substituted Martok in my imagination.
Stabbing that guy.
And that's because that's
I'm
why.
stabbing Martok.
It's like,
Yes.
So Scott, talk about that a little bit. The you know, you guys have, because of the nature of when we record, you guys have to make the cut scenes generally like a month or so in advance of actually getting the recordings of the actors. How do the cut scenes change once people like Bob and JG have come in and recorded their sequences? How do you play into that?
Well, a lot of the times it's mostly timing that gets adjusted. So, you know, Weston is a huge fan of Star Trek. He is like, he loves that show. So he sees what kind of mannerisms and how someone would present themselves. So he gets all the stuff pretty much close to where we want it before the recordings are done. He has kind of the layout. Maybe sometimes we'll do a scratch track, so we'll have kind of a fake audio to lay in there as he's laying his animations in there. And then what happens is usually Robert or JG will come in and record their lines, and then he'll have to kind of tweak it just a little bit. It's not ideal. It's not the way we would want to do it, but because of the way our schedule works, that's most of the time that we have to do it. But because, you know, Weston is so good at what he does that he's able to kind of pivot and change things on the fly. And usually it's kind of towards the very end of the release. But, you know, he does such a great job at that. So that's usually how we kind of do it.
That's cool. So JG, having seen yourself, you know, on screen in Star Trek Online a few times now, and, you know, done voice recording for us, what's different about doing like a voice, and which is more fun than doing a voice or doing, you know, a live action in front of a camera acting?
Well, voiceover acting is the easiest and most desirable work there is, I believe, because that's why you get people like Jason Isaacs, you know, to come in and do it, because everybody wants. You don't have to rehearse, you know. You have to get familiar with the script. In Bob and I's case, we can't get any more familiar with our characters. Bob's character gets a little too familiar with me sometimes, so I don't want to go there. But
I didn't want to go there either.
No, it was driving me, disgusting old man. I think, you know, it's lovely. It's wonderful to work with the whole world that I became a part of, that Bob was a part of at Next Generation before me, and then also a part of in DS9. It's wonderful to go to work with everybody. You guys know the same thing. To go into Cryptic Studios and you know everybody there, and that's your family working there, right? It's wonderful to work with your family and these guys and people that you love, and create something that's extraordinary.
And you do it year after year, and it's
it's a great gift. Voiceover it's really an extension of that, but yeah, everybody. It's we don't have to get there at 4:30 in the morning. We don't have to get 4 hours of makeup and hair and costume, you know. But as soon as you step, and I'm sure the same is true with Bob, as soon as you step into that world again, it all. One of the questions you had, you know, in terms of surrounding, how do you create the whole Klingon experience that you're stepping back into? It's always there. It will never not be there. I'm sure Bob feels the same way.
Yeah.
So
there's always a little Klingon inside of you straining to get out.
I think you like the recording in the studio.
Well, it gets out a lot.
Not a little Klingon. No.
I'm so sorry.
Yes.
Well, I
Ben
want
Hertzler is anything but little. I have been in an elevator with him and plastered against the wall.
How about you?
We've been in a lot of elevators together in a lot of countries. Stand up to go back up to the rooms, you know. But it's been, you know, this has been an incredible gift of a life that I've been given. I'm sure Bob feels the same way. You have no expectations as you go into an acting, a life in the theater. There's no well, there wasn't any for me. most actors that I've ever worked with are just interested in getting the next job. And it's not about striking it rich. It's not about becoming famous. It is about working. And you just want to continue to work. And this is every bit as much fun working as anything I've done, you know, in terms of in a studio with costumes and lights and everything. It's the same because the world's there. It's here. I'm looking right at it. So.
Did you kind of know when you got the job that you were like, this is going to change my life?
To who? JG?
To either one of you. Yeah, I'm just curious.
With me, it was, I didn't know, but Michael Westmore knew because he had gotten the directive from the producers. And he told me when they were making, because I had never, when I went to the set, not the set, but the makeup trailer, you have to go early because you're a Klingon. They have to measure you and work on your mask and with me they had made a death mask, and that had never happened to me before, which is really kind of a hard thing to do if you've ever had they have to put this stuff on you and the straws in
your nose,
or up your nose, and the one thing he said to me is, Bob, this role that you're doing is a life thing. And I didn't really get it, what he was talking about, but it ended up being a life thing, you know. It changed my life forever, instantaneously too, I might add. Going to Germany with JG, it's like, was probably when we first arrived, it was probably the most hilarious thing we've both been through because everybody loved us. Why? You know, we're like, why? You know? It was a pretty incredible. It was fun ride and still is.
That's awesome.
Well, you both made very, very original characters out of what you did with them, and made them your own. It's, you know, you talk about the joy you have about doing this work. I can't begin to tell you, as game developers who never thought about doing this kind of work before. I worked on superhero games and science fiction games and other games like, it's just that not to do with Star Trek, but then having the opportunity to work on a game like Star Trek and then creating stories and working with a team and working with with writers and animators to build these stories, Star Trek stories, right? That things that I grew up with, that the team grew up with, watching you on screen, and then having you two and actors like you. We've had dozens at this point come in and bring that work to life. It is a real joy and honor and just very surreal. So I want to thank you both and all the other actors who have joined us, because if you watch us when we're in the recording studio, I watch Scott too. So Scott's like, yeah, he gets so excited, right?
When you deliver a line, it's good. I just get so geeked.
Yeah, because you work on that and you hear it in your head. You don't know, and you write it, or he sculpts it, and I design it, and Scott's sculpting it, and Scott's art directing it, and so, and then when professionals like yourself come and bring it to life, it's there's no describing that experience. So I very much appreciate that, and we'll always cherish these opportunities I've had to work with yourselves and others like you. So thank you and great job.
Thank you very much.
I think you're watching the artistry of all this is just amazing to me, because I couldn't draw. JG's actually a pretty good artist, but I couldn't draw anything. I once drew a horse, and that was probably the best I ever did, But to see the color and the figures and the whole thing come together, it's beautiful. Yeah, I want to add one thing, because I've had the same experience. I used to be an original fan of the original Star Trek. And when I went to a set, it was a cop show, and I had to work with the actor who was a star of T.J. Hooker, and
I was T.J. Hooker, right? Yeah, I knew it.
and I had a bunch of lines with him, and he said, "Well, let's run them before the thing." And I think he's had this experience, which is why he did this. And I was like, the first, practice running the lines with him, I was like, and I was totally, I was never nervous with anybody, but I was nervous with him. So but that was Shatner,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like, wow,
That's wonderful.
Since
All right, we're gonna. I want to make sure we have time to get to audience questions, so I'm gonna power through some of this stuff here. But Thomas, let's talk about these ships. So right now we're looking at the Martok's ship, which is his is a cavort, right?
No, it's a Burrell.
Okay, his is a Burrell. Burrell bird of prey, and this is
Rotaran.
Katinga, which is
nope, this is a Negvar.
Negvar, sorry, which is which is Gowron's ship. I wanted to show you guys these, and also have Thomas talk a little bit about the process we just went through updating these and a bunch of other Star Trek ships in our game, especially the classic Klingon ships.
Yeah. STO has been around for 10 years, and over the course of that time, we've computers have gotten more and more powerful. The people who play our games have better and better computers, and so over the course of the lifespan of the game, we've updated our models to take advantage of that and make them look better and more faithful to the show. And we've done that incrementally over the last 10 years. For Starfleet ships, because up until now, the Starfleet faction is kind of the biggest faction. But for this year of Klingon and the House Divided release, it was important to all of us to kind of finally give that level of attention and detail to the Klingon ship designs as seen in the shows, which frankly are really cool, really beautiful, but also really aggressive and menacing ship designs. And there's a ton of history there. For why they look the way they do. Rick Sternbach, who was on the very first panel of the day for Day of Honor, he actually designed the Vorcha, and I think he contributed to this ship, the Negvar, too. But it's just incredible to work with these designs. We did a few in-house. We outsourced some of them to get them all ready for the Day of Honor. Just making them and in some ways, I think they're kind of more detailed in Star Trek Online now than they might have been for like the CG scenes in Deep Space Nine, just because that's how far computing power has come since then.
That's awesome.
Just fabulous.
This is the guy who makes it right here. This guy, Thomas.
Thomas models a lot of these ships along with his team and along with our concept artist Hector Ortiz, who designs a lot.
I do want to say one thing about the Rotaran.
Let me go back to her.
I think I mentioned it to Al. Do you know who originally designed that ship?
Thomas does, I bet.
Oh, no. Well, it was originally designed for Star Trek 3. I don't recall the name of the artist.
It was Nilo Rodish
That's right.
From Industrial Light and Magic. It was the only ship that he designed for Star Trek.
Ah.
That's why I think the Bird of Prey is the most interesting ship in the fleet, because Gowron always wants to fly in these enormous beasts, these like super aircraft carriers.
747 of space.
Yeah.
Yes. And these little guys here are the workhorses. I love them.
If there's one thing that I have always said on every stream for Star Trek Online, the Klingon Bird of Prey is the prettiest ship in Trek. That's just facts. You can't argue with it.
It's a beautiful design.
It Star Trek looks like a duck, with his,
a beautiful duck.
A beautiful duck. My better half, Chevy, I offered that. She says, it also looks like a duck. It does.
Now that you said that, I can't think of anything other than a duck.
Yeah, can't unsee it now. It's a yes.
Now, when you draw, the artistry, do you make a model and then draw it, or do you just draw it from your imagination and reality?
Yeah. So the process is Oh, everyone's about to see my cat. Hello, say hello to Lauren.
Hi, Lauren.
um,
Hello, Lauren. How are you?
So basically, usually we start by drawing what we call a concept art, where we'll have an artist pitch a bunch of ideas, and we refine that into a high quality illustration, and then we take that illustration and turn it into a digital model. So it's a collaboration between quite a few people with different skill sets. But the digital model, if you think of it, it's like a physical model, except in 3D that you can spin around in the computer and see from any angle, and that's what gets used in the game.
And that's why I don't do what you do. I wouldn't know how to do it.
You can make a puppet. You got a puppet. You can
Yeah, there you go.
I do have a puppet. Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna skip through this cutscene, Scott, even though it's lovely,
it's
and
all
move
good.
on to your environments here really quick. So we just
Real
want to
quick,
show off.
yeah. I want more JG and Robert.
Yeah, me too. We just want to show off some of the update work we did for the Klingon stuff in the game. This is what it used to look like, which is pretty good. This is what it looks like now, which is amazing. Talk a little bit as I flip through these. Talk about what your team was doing, Scott.
So this is a lot of Nick. Nick running our chat right now. Good is worked on that. Took our old kits. These were like 8 years old, and he just revamped them and made them more modular.
Wow.
Right, they look amazing, and so he just took all that stuff and improved it, made them work better, did a better lighting pass, a better layout of the map. And they just feel better. They just work better for more modern times. This was me. I just wanted to change the lighting on this. I wanted more of a moody, dramatic kind of Klingon nighttime with some, letting the fire be the main light source rather than kind of the sun. Because I just feel like.
And you added the broken moon up in the sky.
That's right. I did. It needed a good praxis in the sky, so I wanted to make sure we got that in there. This is our Aurora Pente map. It's our old Aurora Pente. And David Lopez went in and redid all the interiors of that stuff. We have a more better snow kit that we were using now, so he just did a lot of kit bashing to kind of make that look better. So it's just a lot of work. A lot of work on a lot of different people that just made the environments work so much better than they were before. And I just give Nick and David a lot of credit for just making my job easy, because I just have to sit back and say, yeah, that looks good, do that. And then they do all the heavy lifting. So that's how you get to be a position of like me. Al knows just what I'm talking about. You just tell everybody else what to do and you take the credit for it. So
yeah, that's
what I did.
Well, look at Don Delancey with a sacrificial lamb medal on his chest.
Yeah. Well, this is our general Q&A.
General Q&A. I never
Yep.
got that.
Wow. That's
General Q.
That's next level right there.
Thank you. I
just thought it was Q&A, but
yeah.
Q&A.
You totally
got that. That was,
was
I can't take credit for that. That was Tim Davies.
Okay.
Who worked for us in Europe, but I love it. All right. So we've got some questions that Nick has sent us from chat. I'm going to modify this one. Theocratic Spy asked if Martok and Gowron were going to fight to the death, who would win? But I had a question. I'm going to modify that a little bit. If Martok and Gowron were going to have a blood wine drinking contest, who wins?
Well, I think it's Gowron, because there's no way he would do anything legitimately. So he poisoned my drink before the first goblet. So.
No, I would do it to the third drink.
Oh, okay.
No, you couldn't change your mind.
Nice.
You'd fall into trust me.
Nice. Cairo47 asks, Bob, how did you approach playing Aakar differently to Gowron as Gowron's grandfather?
Good question.
Well, I thought about it for a long time, and then I went into my imagination, which is really a bad thing to do. But I went back and I saw him, my grandchild, on my knee, and it was like two eyeballs going around. It was just two eyeballs and not much of a body, and bouncing him up and down on my knee, and then he threw up on me, and that made me very mean. And I was ready to go. I was just ready to attack that microphone in any way I could. And I ate the first microphone, and you told me I couldn't do that anymore. So I was given another microphone, and I was subtler then. But so very angry. You know?
Let's see. World of None wants to know.
I hope that helped. I hope that helped answer the question.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
Sure it is. It's all clear for me now.
Totally.
World of None wanted to know: did either of you keep your prosthetic teeth after filming, and did you use them when you were recording your lines? That the background of that question is that all of our Ferengi actors who've come in have specifically requested to get their prosthetic teeth back so they can record their lines with the correct voice.
Well, I do. I was the only actor, I think, who had 2 sets. I won't go into that story; it'd take too long. But all my teeth are, because of old age, are totally different, so it doesn't fit anymore. But I still have them. I do.
Nice.
Bob, I had 2 sets too, but the second set, the first set I lost. The first set literally went to auction somewhere, an auction house, and somebody actually bought them. My first set.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
That's something.
And
to
they
have
wear them
display case
today.
in your house. Yeah.
I have no idea. The second set, I had made, Michael Westmore made them for a commercial for a dental program. And it was they never made the commercial, but one of the dental victims, the patients, was a Klingon with a toothache. And he made me a horrendous set of teeth. They're the ones I use. And
the fang. You had a fang, I remember.
Fang coming out. Yeah.
I don't know how you talked with the fang, you know.
Well, yeah, I'm a very skilled actor.
Maybe
all
yesterday.
those years of training led to this moment.
If anybody has JG's teeth, that would.
I do have those teeth, and they will be up for auction at the end of this program.
Can I hear $5? All right. Let's see. Flip Flirpington, that's a fabulous name. Well done, Flip Flirpington. Wants to know what each of your favorite scene with Gowron and Martok is and why.
Oh.
Between a scene that includes
either what each of your favorite scenes in your role was. This is always the hard one to ask because it all blends together, right?
Well, for me, it was being able to yell at Worf that I really exploded at him in. I think it was Soldiers of the Empire.
Was that Sword of Kalos? No, I guess not. No, you're right.
Sword of Kalos was in in Next Gen, I think. I'm not sure.
Sword of Kalos is in DS9, but I don't think either of you were in it.
Yeah.
No,
Martok.
Oh, that's right.
Was
I thought he played the sword in that one, but I'm probably wrong.
But the one with Kolikos, John Kolikos as Scor, I was terrified by the Jem'Hadar, and that's James Horan playing Ikatika, so I have every reason to be horrified by James Horan. But I had to yell, "Will not cross the border," and there was an actor on the set named Sage, David Sage. Do you remember him, Bob? David Sage?
No.
He was an older Klingon on the helm. And anyway, he did a wonderful line reading of a line that basically all the Klingons cracked up because it was funny. But I got a chance to really yell at Worf and let it all out, We will not cross the border! And in his face. And Worf said, okay. And that was
you say so.
Yeah. I get it. We're not crossing the border. Okay.
With me, I was it was probably the scene where I say someday that the little guy who's a Duras comes up and says someday the Duras family will rule the empire, and I lean over and I go, perhaps, but not today. And I got such joy that they gave me a line like that. I surprised the producers by the way I said it, but it cemented Gowron that he had a sense of humor, you know.
Yeah.
But they gave me that line, and I was like, I can't. I have to do it that way. But at the same time, that was the day that I was working with Patrick, and he had to hold this cloak up for me for hours because they had to shoot it from every direction. And there was another actor who was larger, much larger than JG, and they put him in stilts, like 4-inch lifts on top of his height. I don't know why they wanted him so tall. And Patrick and I were doing our dialogue, and all of a sudden we look over and the guy had disappeared. He had fallen off the set.
Oh no!
And we're like both going like, "Are you okay?" And he was like, "Yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine." You know, it was a strange day of work that day, but a fun day. I was sad by all.
All right. Well, we are running up against the end of our time here, so I want to say thank you so much to JG and Robert for joining us today, and thank you to Al and Thomas and Scott as well for spending part of your Saturday with us. It has been a fantastic panel, one of the most fun panels I've ever done, you guys. So thank you so much. Before we sign off, of course, for all our Star Trek Online players out there, I do have one last little thing.
Ooh.
I wish they had the sound.
I know. It's just it's just Klingon opera in the background.
Oh, there, right? Oh, ugly Torg. Nasty.
No, they're cute. Are you little cutie? Cutie patooties.
This is all.
I like my tongue. I like my tongue.
This is not stuff we've revealed or talked about, so I hope people are paying attention.
Yeah, this is all coming soon.
Whoa! Oh, I love it.
All right. Thank you
Bring it
so
on.
much. This has been such a fun panel. Thank you again, JG, and thank you again, Robert. We love you guys so much. And we will hope to see you again very soon.
Yes.
I hope so too. Thank you.
JG and Robert will be back. Thank you very much.
I'm glad we can announce
Yes,
that.
we already said that. That's fine.
Yeah.
We're back. The story's not over.
I don't because of the pandemic, Bob and I don't get a chance to work together very often. So this is a treat. Thank you.
Of course. It is absolutely our pleasure to listen to you guys razz on each other for an hour.
If it's fun for you, it's an intense pleasure for me.
All right.
Thank you all. Thank you all.
And we will see you very soon. Next up is the final panel of the day. And Elisa Pearl is going to have a ton of Klingons from Discovery on board, so don't go away.
And Kapla.
Kapla!